Step back in time and uncover the hidden truths behind Petticoat Junction, the iconic television show that captured the hearts of millions from 1963 to 1970. With its quirky humor and charming characters, the series became a beloved classic, leaving an indelible mark on generations of viewers. However, behind the glitz and warmth of the screen lies a much darker reality. The tragic stories behind the scenes reveal a chilling truth about the fate of its cast members, ranging from sudden, devastating illnesses to shocking accidents and mysterious, unexplained deaths. The smiles that once lit up the screen often masked silent struggles and untold suffering. In this journey of discovery, we will delve deep into the lives of these actors, shedding light on their battles and the haunting circumstances surrounding their untimely fates. What did they endure? What really happened to them? And what mysteries still linger over their destinies? The answers await in this gripping and emotional exploration. Edgar Buchanan, born on March 20, 1903, in Humansville, Missouri, became a household name as the crafty and endearing Uncle Joe Carson on Petticoat Junction. His portrayal of the lovable but scheming hotel caretaker, who often found himself concocting get-rich-quick schemes, made him one of the show's most memorable characters, appearing in all 222 episodes. However, Buchanan's journey to Hollywood was anything but conventional. Before his acting career, he followed in his father's footsteps as a dentist, earning his degree from North Pacific College, now Oregon Health and Science University. For years, he balanced dentistry with his growing passion for acting, only fully committing to the screen in his late 30s. Buchanan's Hollywood career spanned more than 3 decades, with notable roles in films such as Shane, 1953, Ride the High Country, 1962, and Texas, 1941. He also became a familiar face on television, guest starring in series like Bonanza and Green Acres, often playing rugged yet humorous characters. Despite his affable on-screen presence, Buchanan lived a relatively private and stable personal life. He married Mildred Marguerite Spence in 1928, and they remained together until his death, though they never had children. As he aged, Buchanan's health began to decline. A lifelong smoker, he suffered from emphysema and pneumonia, which weakened him significantly in his later years. His once energetic persona dimmed as he withdrew from the industry, making only occasional appearances. In early 1979, his condition worsened, and on April 4 of that year, he passed away from complications of pneumonia in Palm Desert, California. The man who had brought so much laughter to audiences left behind a legacy of classic performances, his booming laughter forever echoing in the memories of his fans. Pat Woodell, born on July 12, 1944, in Winthrop, Massachusetts, was the original Bobby Jo Bradley, the bookish yet charming middle daughter at the Shady Rest Hotel in Petticoat Junction. She portrayed Bobby Jo for 74 episodes from 1963 to 1965 before leaving the show to pursue a career in music and film. With dreams of becoming a singing sensation, she transitioned into the world of pop music, performing in nightclubs and even releasing an album with the girl group The Ladybugs, a female counterpart to the Beatles. However, her attempts at breaking into a serious film career led her to roles in exploitation films like The Big Doll House, 1971, far removed from the wholesome image she had on Petticoat Junction. Woodell's personal life was riddled with hardships. Her early career showed promise, but Hollywood was unkind, and she struggled to find her place in the entertainment industry. Her first marriage ended in heartbreak, leaving her disillusioned with the business. She eventually left acting altogether, opting for a quieter life working in corporate sales. However, her troubles were far from over. In the 1990s, she was diagnosed with cancer, a battle that lasted for over 2 decades. Despite her struggles, she remained resilient, but the disease ultimately took its toll. On September 29, 2015, at the age of 71, Pat Woodell passed away at her home in Fallbrook, California. Her death was a tragic end for a woman who had once dreamed of stardom but found herself fading from Hollywood spotlight long before her time. Charles Lane, born on January 26, 1905, in San Francisco, California, became one of the most recognizable character actors in Hollywood history, despite rarely playing a leading role. On Petticoat Junction, he portrayed the sour and conniving Homer Bedloe, the relentless railroad executive determined to shut down the beloved Hooterville Cannonball. His 24 episodes on the show showcased his signature grumpy demeanor, a persona he perfected throughout his extensive career. Lane's filmography was staggering, with roles in over 250 films, including classics like It's a Wonderful Life, 1946, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939, and You Can't Take It With You, 1938. His sharp, no-nonsense delivery made him the go-to actor for authority figures, curmudgeons, and humorously exasperated bureaucrats. Despite his on-screen persona as a cantankerous antagonist, Lane's real life was one of remarkable endurance. He was married to his wife, Ruth Covell, for 70 years, an astonishing feat in an industry notorious for short-lived romances. While he avoided the scandals and heartbreaks that plagued many of his contemporaries, he did suffer his own share of misfortunes, outliving most of his peers and watching Hollywood transform into an industry he no longer recognized. His career slowed in his later years, but he remained active well into his 90s, making guest appearances on television and giving interviews about the golden age of Hollywood. Lane's long life eventually came to a peaceful close. On July 9, 2007, at the extraordinary age of 102, he passed away at his home in Brentwood, California. His death marked the end of an era, as he had been one of the last living links to the classic days of Hollywood. Though he was often cast as a thorn in the side of beloved protagonists, his real legacy is one of dedication, longevity, and an indelible presence that made even the smallest roles unforgettable. Bea Benaderet, born on April 4, 1906, in New York City, was the heart and soul of Petticoat Junction, playing the kind and strong-willed Kate Bradley, owner of the Shady Rest Hotel and devoted mother to her 3 daughters. Her presence on the show was comforting, embodying warmth, wit, and wisdom, making her one of the most beloved maternal figures on television. But long before she graced the screen, Benaderet was already a legend in radio and voice acting. Her voice was unmistakable, bringing to life countless animated characters, including Betty Rubble in The Flintstones, Granny in Looney Tunes, and numerous voices in Merry Melodies. Her television career was equally illustrious, with standout performances in The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show and The Jack Benny Program. Though she had originally been considered for the role of Granny in the Beverly Hillbillies, fate had a different plan, and she instead became Kate Bradley, a role that would define her career. Despite her success, Benaderet's personal life was marked by its own struggles. Her first marriage to actor Jim Bannon resulted in 2 children but ended in divorce, a painful chapter in her life. However, she found love again with her second husband, Gene Twombly, whom she married in 1957. In 1967, tragedy struck when Benaderet was diagnosed with lung cancer. She underwent surgery and radiation treatment, briefly returning to Petticoat Junction before her health rapidly declined. By 1968, the disease had spread to her lungs and brain, forcing her to leave the show permanently. Despite her battle, she remained optimistic and determined to recover. Sadly, on October 13, 1968, at the age of 62, she succumbed to pneumonia, a complication of her cancer, at Good Samaritan Hospital in Los Angeles. Just 10 days later, her husband Gene Twombly died of a sudden heart attack, a heartbreaking end to their love story. Benaderet's death devastated Petticoat Junction, leaving an irreplaceable void. Her absence was felt not only by her co-stars but by millions of viewers who had grown to love her as Kate Bradley. Though her life was cut short, her legacy endures through the warmth and humor she brought to screens, a voice that continues to echo in the annals of television history. Byron Foulger, born on August 27, 1899, in Ogden, Utah, was one of those character actors whose face was instantly recognizable, even if his name was not. On Petticoat Junction, he played Wendell Gibbs, the timid, bespectacled, and perpetually nervous railroad executive who often found himself caught between Homer Bedloe's scheming and the charms of the folks in Hooterville. His portrayal added an understated comedic touch to the series, and he appeared in 21 episodes from 1965 to 1969. Before his stint on Petticoat Junction, Foulger had a prolific career spanning over 400 film and television roles. He specialized in playing meek, mild-mannered clerks, nervous shopkeepers, and henpecked husbands, often appearing in films such as The Devil and Daniel Webster, 1941, and Saboteur, 1942. While his career flourished, his personal life was more stable than most Hollywood stars. He married actress Dorothy Adams in 1921, and the two remained devoted to each other until his death, a rarity in an industry riddled with heartbreak. Despite his longevity in Hollywood, time eventually caught up with Foulger. His health began to decline in the early 1970s, forcing him into retirement. He suffered from heart disease, which worsened in his final years. On April 4, 1970, at the age of 70, he passed away in Hollywood, California. His death went largely unnoticed by the mainstream press, a quiet end for a man who had spent decades filling the screen with unforgettable, if often uncredited, performances. Yet, for those who grew up watching Petticoat Junction and classic Hollywood films, Foulger's presence remains an indelible part of television and cinema history. Frank Cady, born on September 8, 1915, in Susanville, California, became a television icon as Sam Drucker, the affable general store owner who connected the quirky residents of Hooterville in Petticoat Junction. He played the role for 165 episodes, and his character was so beloved that he reprised it in Green Acres and the Beverly Hillbillies, making him one of the few actors to appear in all three interconnected rural sitcoms. His career, however, began far from the bright lights of Hollywood. Raised in a small town, Cady's early life was marked by a love for performing, which led him to study journalism and drama at Stanford University. Before achieving television fame, he appeared in films such as The Asphalt Jungle, 1950, and Rear Window, 1954, often portraying shopkeepers, bankers, and small-town men with an easygoing charm. Despite his on-screen warmth, Cady's personal life was largely private and free from the turmoil that plagued many of his Hollywood peers. He married his college sweetheart, Shirley Cady, in 1940, and the two shared a remarkably stable union for more than 60 years, raising two children together. Unlike many actors, he avoided scandal, instead choosing a quiet life away from the limelight. After Petticoat Junction ended, he retired comfortably, making only occasional appearances before stepping away entirely. Yet time eventually took its toll. As he aged, Cady suffered from declining health, growing frail and increasingly reclusive in his final years. He passed away peacefully in his sleep on June 8, 2012, at the age of 96 in Wilsonville, Oregon. His death marked the end of an era, as he was the last surviving regular cast member of Petticoat Junction. While he lived a life seemingly free from scandal and tragedy, the quietness of his passing contrasted with the vibrant energy he brought to television, leaving behind a legacy of nostalgia for a simpler, bygone era. Elvia Allman, born on September 19, 1904, in Enochville, North Carolina, had a voice as sharp as her wit and a screen presence that left an impression no matter how brief her appearance. On Petticoat Junction, she played the overbearing and gossipy Selma Plout, a recurring character who was always looking to meddle in the affairs of the residents of Hooterville. Over the course of 19 episodes from 1963 to 1970, she became one of the show's most memorable side characters, embodying the pushy small-town busybody with both comedic brilliance and just the right touch of menace. Allman's career began in radio, where her distinctive voice made her a natural for playing snobbish or comically over-the-top characters. She became a sought-after voice actress, lending her talents to classic animated series, most notably as the original voice of Clarabelle Cow for Disney. Her film and television career included roles in I Love Lucy, The Beverly Hillbillies, and Adventures of Superman, where she often played stern secretaries, overbearing mothers-in-law, and society women with a sharp tongue. But behind the humor, her personal life was far less light-hearted. Her marriage to animator Jack Stern ended in divorce, leaving her to navigate Hollywood on her own. She never remarried, and as she aged, work became scarce. While she remained active in television well into the 1980s, her health began to decline. In her later years, she suffered from respiratory issues, which only worsened with time. On March 6, 1992, at the age of 87, she passed away in Santa Monica, California, after complications from pneumonia. Though her name may not be widely remembered, her performances, especially as Selma Plout, left behind a legacy of humor, sass, and unforgettable character work. Rufe Davis, born on December 2, 1908, in Vinson, Oklahoma, was best known as Floyd Smoot, the lovable and somewhat absent-minded railroad engineer of the Hooterville Cannonball on Petticoat Junction. With 131 episodes under his belt, Davis's character became a staple of the show's humor, embodying the small-town charm that defined the series. But his talents extended far beyond acting. He was also a gifted musician and mimic, best known for his ability to imitate train whistles and barnyard sounds, which earned him early fame on radio and in vaudeville. Before his television success, he appeared in musical westerns such as Ride, Tenderfoot, Ride, 1940, and The Old Chisholm Trail, 1942, often using his comedic and musical talents to liven up the screen. However, despite his comedic gifts, Davis's life was not without its struggles. He never found long-term romantic happiness, and though he married briefly, the relationship was tumultuous and ended in separation. The pressures of Hollywood, combined with the unpredictability of show business, took a toll on his spirit, and as he aged, work became scarcer. After Petticoat Junction, he largely faded from the public eye, making only occasional appearances in television and film before slipping into obscurity. By the late 1970s, Davis's health declined, and he withdrew from the entertainment world entirely. On December 13, 1974, at the age of 66, he passed away from heart failure in Torrance, California. His death went largely unnoticed by the industry that once celebrated his unique comedic gifts. Though his passing was quiet, his legacy lived on through his unforgettable portrayal of Floyd Smoot, a character who, much like Davis himself, embodied a kind-hearted, simple man just trying to bring a little joy to the world. Meredith MacRae, born on May 30, 1944, in Houston, Texas, was destined for show business, the daughter of Hollywood stars Gordon MacRae and Sheila MacRae. She became the third actress to portray Billie Joe Bradley on Petticoat Junction, appearing in 114 episodes from 1966 to 1970. Unlike her predecessors, MacRae brought a more sophisticated and level-headed interpretation to Billie Joe, transforming her from a ditzy blonde into an ambitious young woman with dreams of a singing career. Her natural charm and poise made her one of the most beloved versions of the character. Beyond Petticoat Junction, MacRae built a successful career in both acting and music, with roles in My Three Sons and appearances in films like Norwood, 1970. However, despite her Hollywood lineage, her life was far from a fairy tale. Behind her polished exterior, she struggled with deeply personal battles. Her first marriage to actor Greg Mullivet, Mary Hartman, lasted 19 years but was fraught with difficulties, including his infidelities and the pressures of Hollywood. The marriage produced a daughter, Allison, but ended in a painful divorce in 1987. MacRae later found love again with businessman Philip Neal, yet the scars from her past lingered. Tragedy struck when MacRae was diagnosed with brain cancer in 1999. She initially mistook her symptoms, memory loss and disorientation, for the effects of menopause. By the time she received a proper diagnosis, the disease had already progressed significantly. Despite undergoing surgery and treatment, her condition deteriorated rapidly. In her final months, she displayed remarkable courage, using her platform to advocate for early cancer detection. On July 14, 2000, at the age of 56, Meredith MacRae passed away in her home in Manhattan Beach, California, surrounded by her loved ones. Her death was a heartbreaking loss for fans who had watched her grow from a promising young actress into a resilient woman who fought until the very end. Jack Bannon, born on June 14, 1940, in Los Angeles, California, was born into Hollywood royalty as the son of legendary actress Bea Benaderet. Following in his mother's footsteps, he carved out a respectable career in television, though he never quite reached the same level of fame. On Petticoat Junction, he made recurring appearances as Roger Budd and other minor characters in 14 episodes between 1963 and 1969. His connection to the show was deeply personal. Not only was his mother the series' beloved Kate Bradley, but he also grew up surrounded by the magic of television production. While Bannon's career included guest roles in classic shows like The Andy Griffith Show, The Man from UNCLE, and Hawaii Five-0, his most notable role came years later as Art Donovan in Lou Grant, 1977 to 1982. However, despite professional success, his personal life was often lonely. Though he married actress Ellen Travolta, John Travolta's sister, the pressures of Hollywood took their toll, and he struggled with bouts of depression. As he aged, he retreated from the industry, preferring a quieter life away from the spotlight. In his later years, health complications emerged, though he kept them largely private. On October 25, 2017, he passed away at the age of 77 in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. The cause of death was not widely publicized, but it was known that he had suffered from declining health. His passing was a quiet and subdued end for a man who had spent his life in the shadow of his famous mother, never quite escaping the weight of his Hollywood legacy. Smiley Burnette, born Lester Alvin Burnette on March 18, 1911, in Sumim, Illinois, was a multi-talented entertainer whose career spanned film, radio, television, and music. On Petticoat Junction, he played Charlie Pratt, the warm-hearted and bumbling train engineer who, alongside Floyd Smoot, kept the beloved Hooterville Cannonball running. His 110 episodes on the show cemented him as a fan favorite, bringing a mix of humor and folksy charm that made him unforgettable. Before Petticoat Junction, Burnette was a country western star, appearing in nearly 200 films, often as the comic sidekick to Gene Autry and Roy Rogers in classic cowboy movies like Tumbling Tumbleweeds, 1935, and Springtime in the Rockies, 1942. He was also a prolific songwriter, composing over 400 songs, some of which became hits in their own right. But despite his outward joviality, Burnette's personal life was marked by struggles. The demands of his career left little time for a stable personal life, and while he was married to Dallas McDonnell, the pressures of fame often kept him away from home. In the mid-1960s, his health began to fail, exacerbated by years of a grueling work schedule and an unhealthy lifestyle. He was diagnosed with leukemia, a devastating blow for a man who had spent his life bringing laughter to others. Even as his strength faded, he continued working on Petticoat Junction until he could no longer keep up with the physical demands of the role. On February 16, 1967, Smiley Burnette passed away at the age of 55 in Encino, California. His sudden death left a void in the series, as his character had been a cornerstone of the show's humor. Though he was gone too soon, his legacy as a pioneer of country western entertainment and a beloved television personality remains firmly intact, a testament to a man who dedicated his life to making others smile. Eddie Albert, born Edward Albert Heimberger on April 22, 1906, in Rock Island, Illinois, was a man of remarkable talent, charm, and depth. Though best known for his role as the eccentric yet lovable Oliver Wendell Douglas on Green Acres, he also made memorable appearances on Petticoat Junction, crossing over into 12 episodes between 1965 and 1968 as the well-meaning but often exasperated gentleman farmer. His comedic chemistry with Eva Gabor made him a household name, but beneath the laughter was a man with a history far more complex than his screen persona suggested. Albert's career spanned decades, including roles in classic films such as Roman Holiday, 1953, and The Heartbreak Kid, 1972, which earned him an Academy Award nomination. But beyond acting, he was a decorated World War II veteran, having served heroically in the U.S. Navy, where he took part in the Battle of Tarawa and helped rescue wounded Marines under enemy fire. Yet, despite his accolades, his personal life was not without heartache. He was married to actress Margot for nearly 40 years, but he suffered immensely when she was diagnosed with brain cancer, an illness that ultimately took her life in 1985. As he aged, Albert faced his own struggles. In his later years, he battled Alzheimer's disease, a cruel irony for a man whose career was built on wit and sharp comedic timing. His son, Edward Albert Jr., devoted himself to caring for him, but the slow deterioration was heartbreaking. On May 26, 2005, at the age of 99, Eddie Albert passed away from pneumonia at his home in Pacific Palisades, California. His death marked the end of an extraordinary life, one that blended Hollywood glamour, real-world heroism, and personal tragedy. Linda Henning, born on September 16, 1944, in Los Angeles, California, was destined for a life in entertainment. As the daughter of television producer Paul Henning, the mastermind behind Petticoat Junction, she was naturally drawn into the industry. She became a beloved household name playing Betty Jo Bradley, the spirited youngest daughter of the Shady Rest Hotel. Over 222 episodes from 1963 to 1970, audiences watched Betty Jo evolve from a tomboyish troublemaker to a devoted wife and mother, mirroring Henning's own transformation into adulthood. Though Petticoat Junction was her most famous role, Linda Henning struggled to escape the shadow of her father's influence in Hollywood. She continued to act in television, appearing in Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, and The Facts of Life, but her career never quite reached the same heights again. Behind the scenes, her personal life was marked by both joy and heartbreak. She married her Petticoat Junction co-star Mike Miner, who played her on-screen husband, but their real-life romance ended in divorce after only a few years. Despite the public perception of a perfect television couple, their marriage was fraught with difficulties, including career struggles and personal differences. Now in her late 70s, Henning has largely stepped away from the public eye. While she still occasionally appears at nostalgia conventions, her life has quieted down considerably. Unlike many of her co-stars, she has avoided the tragic fates that befell others in the cast, but she has faced the painful reality of being remembered for a single role rather than a diverse career. Lorie Saunders, born on October 4, 1941, in Kansas City, Missouri, may have played the sweet and dreamy Bobby Jo Bradley on Petticoat Junction, but her real life was far more complex than the picture-perfect world of Hooterville. Taking over the role in 1965, she appeared in 148 episodes until the show ended in 1970, portraying Bobby Jo as an aspiring singer with a gentle, poetic soul. Her portrayal solidified her as a fan favorite, but after the show ended, finding meaningful roles proved to be a challenge. Beyond Petticoat Junction, Saunders tried to keep her career alive with roles in the Beverly Hillbillies and Dusty's Trail, yet the glamorous Hollywood life she dreamed of never fully materialized. She married Bernard Sandler, a move that seemed to bring stability, but the pressures of the industry, coupled with her waning career, led to periods of uncertainty. Unlike many of her co-stars, she chose to step away from the entertainment world completely, focusing on art and photography instead. Today, Lorie Saunders leads a quieter life away from the limelight. While she has managed to avoid the scandals and tragedies that plagued others in the Petticoat Junction cast, she has also faced the challenge of being a forgotten star from a bygone television era. Aging in Hollywood can be cruel, and while she remains gracious about her legacy, it is a bittersweet existence, forever remembered as Bobby Jo Bradley, a character from a simpler time in television history. What do you think about the deaths of the actors from Petticoat Junction, and who do you miss the most? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest videos.